Across the Netherlands, hundreds of thousands of households are searching for homes that simply are not there. Not later, not eventually, not after one more application. They are missing in the only moment that matters, the moment your lease ends. Your relationship changes, your child grows, your job moves, your life needs space. And when a home is missing, your whole life becomes temporary. People keep saying housing crisis, but that sounds like a headline. For ordinary Dutch families, it feels like a locked door you keep walking into. It starts small. A couple opens a rental app at night, scrolling until their eyes burn. They send message after message. Most listings vanish before they can even book a viewing. When they finally get one, it is not a viewing. It is a line. A quiet hallway full of strangers holding the same documents, wearing the same controlled face, pretending this is normal. Everyone knows the rule. You do not choose a home. You compete to be chosen. And the competition does not reward need. It rewards safety. A stable contract, a clean record, a calm smile. No questions, no demands, no complaints. Because in a market this tight, landlords and agents do not pick the most human applicant. They pick the least risky file. That is the Dutch version of humiliation. You are not treated like a person who needs shelter. You are treated like a problem that might appear later, and the rejections rarely come as a conversation. They come as silence. No reply, no explanation, just another night staring at listings that keep disappearing. Homeownership used to feel like the reward for doing life correctly. Work hard, save, buy something modest. Now even modest can feel unreachable. People sit across from a mortgage advisor with payslips and hope and hear the same message in different words: the numbers do not work. Not because they are reckless, because prices moved faster than wages and rules tightened while the market stayed hot. So they return to renting. And renting is not stability anymore. It is suspense. One letter, one sale, one renovation notice, one rent increase. And suddenly the ground beneath you moves again. This is where the crisis turns into something darker than stress. It becomes fear, because fear changes how you live. You stop planning children because you cannot promise a bedroom. You stop changing jobs because you cannot risk losing your address. You stop leaving a bad relationship because you cannot afford 2 rents. You stay, you endure, you shrink your life down to what fits. Small space living becomes a quiet confession. A loft bed is not a design choice. It is what happens when adulthood is forced into a single room. A wall desk is not minimalism. It is the last surface left where your life can function without sitting on your bed. Storage walls are not style. They are evidence. Evidence that the space cannot hold a normal life, so your life must fold. These are not solutions. They are coping. Because the alternative is not better. The alternative is losing. And the most poisonous part of this crisis is the argument it creates. People point at refugees. People point at migrants. People point at outsiders. It becomes an angry debate about who deserves a key. But when you strip away the shouting, the reality is colder than the argument. Dutch families and newcomers are being trapped inside the same shortage. They are fighting over the same last apartment. They are waiting on the same lists. They are being turned into rivals by a system that cannot meet demand. That is why it feels so unfair, because a wealthy country is supposed to be able to do one basic thing: house its people. So how did this happen? Not slogans, not blame, just forces that stack together until the pressure becomes unbearable. First, the shortage. Official estimates have repeatedly put the gap in the hundreds of thousands of homes. That's not an opinion. That's the basic math. Too many households chasing too few doors. And when a shortage is that deep, every other problem gets worse. Second, building does not keep pace where people actually need homes. Projects take time. Permits take time. Land takes time. Infrastructure takes time. And while the system moves slowly, people's lives don't pause. A breakup doesn't wait for a zoning change. A job offer doesn't wait for a committee. A child doesn't stop growing. So the market stays tight and the line stays long. Third, the rental market can shrink under pressure. When rules and taxes change, when costs rise, when uncertainty grows, some private landlords sell. That can reduce the number of homes available to rent, even while demand stays high. The result is brutal. Fewer listings, more competition, more desperation. Fourth, housing behaves like an asset. When homes are treated as investments, prices can detach from wages. And once they detach, ordinary workers become the weakest bidders in their own communities. This is not a moral statement. It's what happens when shelter is priced like a financial product. Fifth, short-stay use can pull homes away from long-term life. When a property earns more as a temporary stay than as a long-term rental, it stops being a home. It becomes a machine. And the renter becomes the least powerful customer in the room. Now add the pressure point people feel but struggle to talk about without it turning ugly. Asylum reception. The Netherlands has a national asylum reception system run by the Central Agency for the Reception of Asylum Seekers, the COA. When asylum seekers arrive, they need a bed immediately, not in 6 months, not when a project finishes. That immediate need can push the system into emergency mode with temporary sites, hotels, gyms, and overflow locations. Emergency measures become normal, and even after some people receive residency status, many cannot move on quickly because the next step requires housing. That creates a bottleneck. Not because refugees take homes from everyone else in some simple way, but because when housing is scarce, every bottleneck becomes more painful, and every waiting list becomes harder to defend. So the public sees two kinds of waiting at once. Dutch households waiting for social housing for years, and asylum centers holding people longer than intended because there is nowhere for them to go. Waiting grows on both sides. It becomes the perfect environment for anger, because everyone can point to someone else and say they are ahead of me. But the truth is uglier. The line is long because the doors are missing. Missing doors. And people are tired. Tired. Not tired in a casual way, tired in a way that changes your personality, tired of hearing promises while the market stays tight, tired of watching their country feel smaller every year, tired of being told to adapt, to compromise, to accept less space, less stability, less dignity. So what is the government doing? On paper, there are targets, there are reforms, there are rent rules. There are plans to build more homes and to protect tenants in certain segments. On paper. There are also policy changes aimed at reshaping incentives in the housing market and measures intended to speed up construction. And for asylum reception, there are plans to expand or reorganize capacity and agreements with municipalities that can change over time. So, yes, policies exist, targets exist, rules exist. But people do not live on paper. They live in outcomes. And the outcome millions feel is still this. The search is still endless. The viewings are still crowded. The rejections still arrive as silence. The waiting lists still stretch into years. Endless, silent rejection. And the most disturbing part is how normal it starts to feel. A couple living in one room starts to sound reasonable. Adults moving back in with parents starts to sound practical. Putting your life on hold starts to sound like maturity until you realize what is really happening. The housing crisis is not just taking money. It is taking time. It is taking choices. It is taking the feeling that you are safe in your own country. Time is being taken. Subscribe to follow this series, country by country. This is not one place. It is a pattern. If this felt real, hit like. And tell me in the comments, what was the first thing housing took from you? Money, time, dignity, or the feeling that you are safe? Subscribe, because the next country is worse in a different way.